means is that if we want to preserve the bliss, the blessing that God has given us, we really need to first pray for the government. They are talking about this from a first century Roman Empire perspective. But what is telling us that whether we are free or legally able to worship God and live out our Christian faith very much depends on the government on that day. So we really need to pray, have a godly government. But some of the people might think that, are we able to do something politically? I just want to show you Romans chapter 13 very quickly. I'm not going to read it just to save some time. But this scripture actually tells us the very first thing is that the government is established by God, which means God is over the government. God is the ultimate authority. And then the scripture continues to tell us about Christian responsibility and the government responsibility. For Christians, we are to submit to authority, yes, and do what is right. But for the government, in verse 4 is actually mentioned twice that the government actually represents God, and in fact, the government is God's servant. And their top role and responsibility is to maintain order and righteousness. And of course, then, because of that, they are able to punish the wrongdoers. But from here, what we can see is that because the government is established by God, and we, Christians, as a people of God, have the responsibility to hold the government to account and make sure that they are really doing the things that God has called them to do, to make sure that there is law and order and righteousness in the society. And they are to be the servant of God, to carrying out their duty. So what it means that if the government is not, then we Christians need to do something about it, hold them to account, and we also need to assert the Christian influence. So we have been saying that Christians need to be the salt and light. We need to transform the culture and society and preserve the bliss in this post-Christian society. Then we need to know how Christian influence can work in this society.